Good evening to today's live session. One learner has joined so far, so I'll wait for 5 more minutes to see if others join and start today's session. Okay, I think should start today's session. Few are still tricky, so I'll give few. Till then, I'll take today's notes. So I'm seeing Anita again. I think she have attended the past two sessions also. Hello, Anita. I'm seeing Anuja and someone named KKD. So,
Yes.
Hello, Nikita.
uh, very nice to see you all. Happy Independence Day to you all. So, uh, I see that Anuja and KK, you haven't attended previous sessions, I think. Am I right?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay,
This is my
okay.
first session.
Yes,
No
we,
issues.
we, we missed to see the announcements and failed to attend the earlier sessions, unfortunately.
Okay, okay, no issues. I hope you now understand that every Tuesday we have live sessions. I am the teaching assistant for this subject, and I come here every Tuesday, and we get some questions which were assigned in previous assignments. It might be similar to current assignments also, but we take on those questions and I help you understand the subject material or the background material of the questions, and I tell you the approach of how to solve them, and even a little bit more about how further questions you can, or similar questions you can solve, or maybe other questions which might come in your exams or something like that. So I'll elaborate a little bit more on the background material of those questions, and then give you further opportunity to ask your doubts, your questions, anything you want to ask. And that is not limited to this session. You can even ask questions related to the previous sessions which you might have missed. So it is totally okay to ask questions from previous sessions even. So the way we proceed is that I take questions which were assigned in the previous run of this course. So in the, like, you get weekly assignments in the previous run also. Learners were getting weekly assignments. So I take the weekly assignment from previous run. I take the questions from there, and I go about solving them. I won't give you answers to that questions because a lot of the questions in the previous run are similar to the ones which you are assigned right now. So I won't tell you which option is the correct options, as you are given multiple choice questions. But I'll tell you the background material. I'll tell you how to go about it, and if you still have doubts, you can ask. We also will do small exercises related to the same questions and same background material. So it can help you better understand the questions and the subject material, and it can be even like a little practice session for you, so that you can answer even more questions related to or similar to the ones which you might encounter in your practice, or in maybe other exams which you might be preparing for, or maybe even in your final exam for this subject. So this is week 3. So we will solve questions related to the lectures that you would have covered in week 3. So this is how we go about solving. But it's okay if you miss previous sections. You can still ask doubts which can be from previous section. I'll try to help you my best. I can even pull up previous doubts or previous slides which I have shared. And I don't know if you have checked it out, the people who have joined only today, but there is a shared folder also, a shared Excel sheet in which there is a link for a shared folder and a link to the previous videos So all of these sessions are recorded and then uploaded to YouTube. So even if you have missed some of the sections, you can always go on to YouTube and watch the previous session if you have any doubts related to the questions. I think you'll very well get a lot of information from those videos. If you still have more doubts, you are very welcome to ask. And then there is a shared folder also. In the folder I upload all of the presentations which I discuss here in the live session, and then I upload supplemental material, some extra reference material or anything else which during the session if we need, or if we feel that it's a good reference material to go back to now or even later. So all those materials I share in that specific folder. So that is also open to everyone who has joined this course. So you can just go and access that folder. KKG is asking, can you please give the link of the shared folder? So you have gotten the link to the folder in your Swayam portal itself. I'll quickly show you how to access the link.
Okay.
Okay, so this is your Swayam portal. This is the page which opens when you open this course. So here there are on this side you have the course outline, and at the end of course outline you get here the problem solving session. So when you click here, you get problem solving session recording. So you click onto this. So you come to this page. Here you click here on this link, and this page opens. So this is the page which I am talking about. Here are the links of YouTube videos, and here is the link for the folder, the shared folder. So if you click and go on to this shared folder, this is a drive folder. In this, like you can see, these are the presentations from the past 2 weeks, and this is all the supplemental material which I have shared so far. So this is the folder I am talking about. You
Okay.
just have to
Got it.
go to this section and you can access the shared folder from here. I hope that is clear to everyone. Six people have so far, so I'll just update the details. So I think let's start today's session. As we move forward, if you have any further doubts, you can either unmute yourself and ask, or you can even type in the chat box. I read all the messages. So even if you feel that you have a question right when I'm discussing something, you can just type it in the chat box, or at the end of a question, if you have any doubts, you can raise your doubts by unmuting yourself also. Both options are accessible to you. So I'll just start now with today's session. So today is, as I mentioned, this is the third session, and we will be discussing the material which has been covered in week 3 of your lectures. So this will include these lectures, which is organization development, transparency and accountability, capacity building part 1 and 2, and then improving systems and processes for urban governance. These are the lectures which have been covered so far in this week. In organization and development, you would have studied a little bit about the different determinants of organization performance, how organization structure of urban local bodies is organized, then what is the different roles and responsibilities of different elected representatives, uh, what are their functionaries, etc. And you would also have learned a little bit about SWOT analysis, how it can be used for assessing organizational performance, or even vistas for further improvement or capacity. Uh, Next, you would have studied transparency and accountability, in which you would have studied what is the significance of both transparency and accountability, what are the uh, provisions which are there in our urban governance system, majorly the RTI Act and related uh, functions of the RTI Act, then things like what public information officers are, what are their functions, how they function, how you can file an RTI, all things like that. Then in capacity building 1 and 2, you would have studied the significance of capacity building, then different dimensions, what are different parts of capacity building, how each part corresponds to urban governance in India. Then a little bit about role mapping. So it is one part of capacity building related to specific roles of people whose capacities need to be augmented. Also, you would have learned about systematic approach in training. So training is further another part of capacity building. So you would have studied the systematic approach for training, and also you would have studied examples of training and role mapping and things like that. The last is improving systems and processes for urban governance. In this, you would have studied what systems are and what different processes are, and how you can improve both processes and systems for any urban governance process. So this is what has been covered so far. We'll start with the questions. So these questions I repeat again. These are not the ones which are assigned to you in this run, although they might be very similar because the study material which you are getting is very similar. So there might be some similarities, although these are the ones which were assigned in previous time. Because there are so many similarities, I won't give you out the like directly the answers to the questions, because then uh, it will be unfair, because you are marked on your assignment. So I won't give you the answers, but I'll give you the approach and the study material, everything, which will make it very clear how to go about solving the questions, and it will bring you very near to solving the question itself. So this is the first question for today, which is the term SWOT refers to strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Is it a true statement or a false statement? Uh, so I won't tell you if it's a true statement or a false statement, because you might know the terminology well on yourself. But I'll tell you what SWOT or SWOT analysis means. So before that, can anyone tell me the difference between strength and weakness? Anyone? You can just unmute yourself and tell me.
It's just as the term suggests, like uh, strength refers to those factors which are helpful for achieving any objective, and weaknesses refers to those factors which are the opposite in a
Okay.
generic way. In a generic.
Anuja, you want to speak?
Yes, I want to attempt to this question. So basically,
Yes.
strength and weaknesses are something very internal, and they express the potential. So it's like strength actually means, as she said, it's about ability to achieve something or to proceed in a particular task internally which we possess, and weakness is the inability to perceive it for whatever the reasons. So it's those are both are internal, and that's it. Yeah. Thanks.
A very good term which Anuja used was internal. So this is one key factor which you should pay attention to when you see what strengths and weaknesses are. What is the term you should pay attention to when you see opportunities and threats? Anuja, can you answer?
Yeah. So just as strengths and weaknesses are internal aspects, opportunities and threats are external. So for any task or any project, there are certain external environment, or in case of governance, it could be the policies, it could be the location, or certain things, the resources, which would affect the project. So it's not only my internal ability or inability, it's other external factors which I have to consider to perform a task or to deliver a project. And so basically other stakeholders, as we might say. So these could be institutions, these could be individuals, these could be other external factors, like climatic factors or any intangible or tangible factors.
Okay, yes, very correct. That is a very good way to understand. So it not only tells you the difference between strengths and weaknesses, but even the difference between what strength is and what opportunity is. If you see, there are two major dimensions across which these things are divided. So one dimension is if it's a positive thing or a negative thing, and the second dimension is if it's an internal thing or an external thing. So strengths are positive internal aspects of any X. I've written here X. So X can be a person, X can be an individual, X can be a group, X can be a body, X can be a whole total organization. So uh, there are always two aspects, positive and negative, to both of these things. So it can be an internal thing or external thing. So internal thing, which means which is inherent to the organization or the individual. So strengths is something which is positive and inherent to the individual itself. It comes from the individual. It doesn't come from external factors like uh, Anuja mentioned, like the external environment or something from outside. And weaknesses is something negative which is inherent to the organization or the individual or anybody, and it is negative. Then opportunities is something which is positive, but it doesn't come from internally, doesn't come from the organization, but from something external to the organization. Like there can be opportunity for growth in some way. There might be some infrastructure or some service which the organization can use. There can be some human resource which is available to the organization, which the organization can take advantage of, things like that. Similarly, threats are negative but external. So there can be some sort of negative environment surrounding the individual. So for an individual, a negative work environment can be a threat, or if it's for an organization, uh, the surrounding environment, not only the physical environment, but even the socio-political or geopolitical environment surrounding the uh, organization can be a threat. So always think of two things when you think of uh, any of these terms. First is if it's positive or negative, and second thing, if it's internal, so inherent to the organization, or external, like something which is not a part of the organization but is affecting it from outside. So, to comprehend it better, you can focus on some questions which can help you understand what each of these things are. Like, for example, to understand strengths, you can ask, "Ki, what is X really good at?" So, X can be just like I mentioned, it can be an individual or a body or an organization, and so you can ask, what is this organization really good at? So it is the inherent quality of that organization which makes it good, or which makes it deliver some positive results. So what is it really good at? Or you can even ask, what does this X, or what do you offer people that others can't do? So what does this X offer people which others can't offer? Similarly, to assess the weakness, you can ask the question: what are some things that X is not very good at that others can do much better? So this is one question which can help you assess your weakness. So there is something which is done or which can be done and is being done by someone better, but you are not being able to do, or X is not being able to do. So if you ask this question, the answers which you find for this question can help you assess very well what the weaknesses are. Similarly, for opportunities, you can ask what are some areas that X could thrive in that it isn't currently taking advantage of. So, like I said, it is something external. So, the external opportunity is still not a part of the organization. So, you can always ask that there are something that this organization could thrive in, or because of that thing it can take advantage, but it's not currently taking advantage. So opportunity is always something which is out there but is not being taken advantage of yet. That is why it's an opportunity. So you always ask that what are some areas that the organization could take advantage of, or that it could thrive in, but it is currently not doing so. Similarly, for threats, you can say what are some external factors like maybe competitors, maybe demand, maybe economic conditions, maybe environmental conditions, a lot of the things which can make your work more difficult, or which can make it more difficult for X to succeed in its goals or objectives. So that way you can assess threats. I hope it is clear. We'll move on to do a very simple exercise so that I understand that you finally understand the difference between all these four terms. Then this exercise, we'll see what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats associated with hiring a summer intern. We'll start with the strengths. So, what are the strengths of a situation or action in which you hire a summer intern? Or what are the strengths of a summer intern? So, summer intern, I hope you understand, it is a person who is not a working professional yet. It is someone who has, maybe they are in the middle of their education, or they have completed their education, and they have come to work in a workplace as someone who is in the process of training, or as they are not very well learned at their job, but they are in a process of learning and training to become suitable for that particular role. So that is what an intern is. So can anyone tell what are the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats in association with an hiring of an intern for any organization? This is very generic. I have not mentioned an organization, so your answers can be very generic. You can answer, anyone can answer. You can even just mention your answers in the chat box.
Okay, may I say something?
Yes.
Okay, the strength of the association would be a well structured organization, and the work that it has. I mean, it has a flow of projects or flow of work for to hire an intern. So the association or organization is has the clarity of uh, giving a task, assigning a task, or identifying an intern basically. So I think that
So
is the positive.
I think there is one miscommunication. What I mean here is ki what the intern brings. Uh, like organization is
Okay,
strong and it
got it.
has a set procedure in itself, no matter it hires an intern or not.
Okay.
While hiring an intern, what is the strengths or what are the positives you see internally that an organization can have?
Okay, so basically, it would be the merit of the student, as in academic merit of the student.
Yes. Okay.
So that will be the positive thing. The negative thing is always, I think it's very generic for all the interns that they do not have the experience of working in an office culture.
We are just doing strengths now. We'll go to the weaknesses later.
Okay.
So, any other strength that anyone else can mention?
Up to date with latest software, maybe.
Yes, yes, very good. This is something which is very particular to an intern, because a lot of the time people who are already working as working professionals, they don't get the space or opportunities to update themselves with new information. However, someone who is coming from a learning environment, who are still getting updated on new technologies, they often are up to date on the latest technology or latest any material which might be relevant to the scope of work. So this is a very good point which associates with the strength of I'm so sorry, I think I moved on to the next problem.
uh, I also feel
Yes, coming back, yes, someone was saying.
Yeah, Anuja here. I also
Yes,
feel it's their agility or freshness since they haven't worked, the freshness or willingness and agility that the intern might have, uh, giving considering that it's their first work experience.
yes,
So
that is also a very good answer, that the new or the young people who are joining a workforce, they are fresh, so they are more energetic compared to someone who has been in the working environment for some time.
Creative input.
What did you say?
Creative input.
Yes,
You get
that
a
is
lot of
also.
new creative input actually from
Yes,
interns.
yes,
Like what Anja mentioned, I think there's a lot of freshness, but there's also a lot of creativity which adds to it.
yes, very good. Anything else? We
uh,
have
it could
space
be
for.
it could be
Yes,
a bit competitive nature because they have the intern wants to prove herself or himself in this job. So there would be a more of competitive.
okay, so we
uh,
can add that to their energetic nature, because often that we can associate it with them being energetic. So them being more competitive will effectively impose that they have more to give, so they'll be more energetic. So we can do that. In terms of cost, what do you think? Is it a positive for the organization hiring a summer intern?
yes, it is, but I
It
was
is a
thinking
positive.
if it would go in opportunity rather than the strength,
Why
because
opportunity?
because since you're talking about the SWOT for the intern, the intern would anyways expect or like to have higher pay, but for the organization or even for the intern, there is the opportunity that one can have good work extracted or done at an competitive cost. I mean, at a lower cost. So I think that would be an opportunity rather than strength.
So that
Ma'am,
will be
because
an
the
opportunity.
cost,
Yes.
because the cost, I mean, the cost of hiring an intern is not something that is their individual strength. Matlab, their cost is not something that they are good at. That would be a positive point for the company, not not necessarily for them.
So here we are talking about the company only, but in context of hiring a summer intern. So I get it, that I understand both the arguments. So even the other argument is correct, that there can be an opportunity, but here we are talking about the cost to the company. So if you see, hiring an intern is often uh, less costly than hiring a full-time employee. So in those terms, the amount of work or the amount of output that an intern can provide is often quite cost effective compared to hiring a full-time employee. So in that way, even the cost effectiveness of the labor provided by the intern is a strength, or is a positive in terms of the value that they have. And yes, that answer is also correct, that it is an opportunity. But we'll see it a little differently, because it is something, as I mentioned, which is which can't be accessed right now. So the company can't access that right now because the company is not providing a full-time employment to the intern. But in future, it has an opportunity to uh, take the time to train the intern in order to hire the intern uh, at a later time for the company. Or even uh, opportunity, uh, actually taking time is kind of not really an opportunity, but the thing that they can transition to full-time employment in the same organization is an opportunity which you can associate with hiring an intern. Any other opportunities that the company might see by hiring an intern?
Connections with the intern's educational institution.
Okay. Anything else? I've written here affiliations because the intern might be affiliated to other institutes as well apart from their educational institutions only. Anything else which you think can be an opportunity?
Uh, I guess since the intern is not specifically hired for a particular position, in the course of the term, the company, the association might understand the skill sets, and accordingly, can transit or allot the intern accordingly. So, hiring an intern helps the organization also to understand if there are any gaps or requirements for a particular task or skill set which requires a full time employment.
Okay. I understood that, but I'm
Ma'am, these
just
are opportunities for the intern, right? Opportunities for the
no.
intern,
It
for
is
the
not
company.
for the company. For the company in the context of hiring an intern.
Okay. Since interns are usually younger people, so they have the opportunity to um, understand the younger market, youth market.
Okay, so that is something
Maybe.
I think which we can associate with strengths,
Oh,
that they have a more creative input to provide, or they are more energetic, or they have something. But what opportunities the company has? So this maybe we can associate this with learning or identifying new roles or new ways in which the company can improve. So this could be it, but the inherent quality of the intern that the company has or the company will get, that would be a part of the strengths. Okay, I think let's move on to negatives now. So what you do you think would be some weaknesses associated with hiring an intern for a job that should be done by a professional or could be done by a professional, but you are hiring an intern to do it? So what are some weaknesses that you'll face?
since they are doing this for the first time, so there might be multiple revisions,
So we can say they'll take longer,
maybe inefficiency.
yes, inefficiency, or they take longer hours to finish a job. Okay.
Not understanding the exact skill set for the work assigned. So, usually the interns are hired and there could be multiple tasks. For an association, that would be an ideal situation. But if an association is going to hire an intern for a particular task, then only with lack of work experience, it would be difficult to understand the actual skill sets or experience. So, as she said, that would lead to inefficiency. But the negative point is not able to assign the task.
Okay, so we can write this as a weakness that they are still learning. So they are not very good at the task they are doing. So this is a weakness because first it will take them longer. Second, because they're still learning, so there will be loss of some efficiency. They will still not understand the task completely. They still might need supervision. So all these things, I think we can just write as they are still learning. What do you think in
Organ-
terms of
yeah.
the thing that after finishing this internship, they'll probably go back? If they're in the middle of their education, if they haven't finished their education, do you think it's a problem?
Yes, ma'am. I was just about to say because it's a summer intern, so it's
Mm-hmm.
mostly maximum for 1 to 2 months.
Yes.
So the effort the company might put in to teach the intern, they might not get as much result back
Yes.
because they will leave in a month or two.
Yes.
Organization time spent on training. There's a tremendous amount
Yes.
of effort there, a lot of infrastructure that really is used by them. So you are
So
weighing that
yes,
against your
both
output.
both answers are correct. So first is that they have to return to school at the end of internship, and uh, again the time taken to train them. Both are some weaknesses which the company will face if they hire an intern uh, to do the work which some professional should be. What about threats? What are the threats that the company might face while uh, taking up and taking a summer intern?
Since the interns are for temporary period, it's likely that the team may not give them the task or role or get them involved uh,
So
in a,
this is something which is inherent to the company or the company's work style. So it will not really come as a threat but as a weakness. So maybe we can write this in the weakness that difficulty in assimilating in the present team.
It an intern can be a threat in the sense that they learn for 1 or 2 months at a company, and maybe after completing their education they join a rival company,
Yes,
so
that is very
maybe that
correct.
exchange of information.
So after finishing their internship, they can join a rival organization. Anything else?
it could be a loss making venture, in the sense, as we mentioned, that there's a lot of resources put up for the intern, the infrastructure, and even if they are paid less, but at the end of it, it should balance that what outcome or output that intern has given versus what input has the organization put in. That if that imbalance is there, then it could be a threat to the organization.
Okay, so I can say that intentional uh, inefficiency on the part of intern. I think this is good because this is something which is not inherent to the company. This is coming externally from the intern, but still it is a threat to the company's time and resources. So I hope this exercise made it very clear what all these different things are. So every time you focus if it's a positive thing, it's a negative thing, then again if it's internal, something inherent to the organization, or something which is coming externally. Another example I thought we might do is for introduction of e-governance in a ULV. So this process can also have its positive negatives and both external and internal circumstances which can or internal and external qualities which can affect uh, the process of integration of e-governance in urban local bodies. So I think we can do a quick exercise on this also. So anyone can mention the strengths or the positives which is inherent to any
Time
organization.
efficiency. Time efficiency.
Time and efficiency. So this is something which is opportunity. So it is positive, but time and efficiency which the company will have once it starts assimilating e-governance its uh, in its system. So it is something which opportunity for which is there in the horizon, but it's not being accessed right now. So it is an opportunity for the urban local body. It's not its strength. Anyone else?
Resource
What?
required, the positive is the resources, if those are good to get adapted to e-governance.
Okay,
So
yes. So this is something which is a strength. That is very correct. So resources, or maybe I can write infrastructure. So it is possible that some urban local body might already have the infrastructure which is required for assimilating or integrating e-governance into their workflow. So we don't know exactly right now which urban local body we are talking about right now, but maybe let's see for it, like let's assume for an example that the urban local body which we are talking about already has existing infrastructure in place which will help them integrate e-governance very easily. So that can be one strength. Uh, Anything
le-
else?
leadership and organization structure.
Okay, yes, that can also be one strength, that if there is already existing leadership and organizational structure, it will obviously help advance the objectives of integration very easily. Anything else?
I'm not sure, but like less corruption within the ULB.
Okay, so
Transparency.
yes, very good term. Transparency. Or maybe we can even see that transparency and accountability as an opportunity. We don't know what the transparency or accountability the organization has right now, but one thing which we always see with integration of e-governance, that all of the things, all of the workflows, they become they go into a more digital format. So there is less chance for corruption or non-performing things like that, or even for feedback. So even accountability can be ensured. So that is one opportunity which the ULB can further access when e-governance is integrated in their workflow. Anything else?
Support of local representatives.
Okay, yes, that
But
can
that,
be a strength. Yes.
ma'am, what
Mm-hmm.
is exactly e-governance? Like digital.
Yes. So e-governance is
So,
digitalization or integration of information and communication technologies into the governance system or governance workflow or working system of the urban local body. That is what I mean here by e-governance. So
Okay, but
someone, mm-hmm. Yes.
so she said representation of people, something like that. So, but that already exists.
I didn't hear the point representation. I heard the point that support from the local people, I guess, or maybe the
Yes,
political.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
yes. So it's support. If the local representatives are not are against it, then this projects or policies would not go
Okay,
ahead.
so I won't consider it as a strength, not for the ULB, because it is coming from outside. So if there is support, it is well and good, but it is not something which is a strength for the ULB, because it's not something inherent to the ULB, but it is something which is coming from outside. So I would rather call it, if there is a lack of support from the political party, or maybe the people who uh, are a part of the governance structure, that can be a threat. But something which is coming from something external to the ULB won't be a part of its strengths.
Actually, I was mentioning this because there is administrative wing and executive wing. So the mayor also has a right in making decisions. So in that way, I was thinking it as an internal part.
Okay, so
So all those decisions
in
are
so
also taken by the local representation in through
mhm.
general bodies or standing committees where
So
there
we
is
can
local
say
representation.
support of the staff in that case, because in that way, if you look, they are a part of the organization itself, so they are in term staff. So there can be sometimes, there can even be uh, disagreement, or unwanted, like many of the times when new technology or something new is being integrated into an existing system, there is some resistance, or un like the staff doesn't want a new system or the new technology to be assimilated or integrated into the uh, working system. So in that case, it can be a weakness also. So if you said it's support, obviously it's strength, it's positive. But in the case that there is resistance, it can be a negative or a weakness also.
Ma'am, instead of weakness, won't it be a threat? Threat to
Hmm.
the staff.
Yes, it won't be
Oh,
a
but
threat because it's coming from the system itself. So staff is a part of the
yeah,
body. If its lack of support is from political party, lack of political support or citizen support, so that is something which is coming from an external element. It is not a part of the organization itself. So always see if it's something which is inherent to the organization which we are talking about, or if it is coming from outside. So that can help you better understand if it's a weakness or a threat. Similarly, if it's a strength or an opportunity. Okay, anything else? We can move on to weaknesses and threats. Anything you feel that may be a weakness or maybe a threat?
uh, no funding for such kind of lack of funding or a lack of
Okay, so that is
policy.
something which is coming externally. So funding is not something which the organization has on its own. It always comes from something externally. So we can put it as threats. Or we can write lack of external
Absolutely
funding
lack of
here,
funding.
or we can write here in the weakness that the municipal funds might not be there.
Or
there
lack
are
of budget.
chances of
Yes, there are chances of.
wrong, incorrect data being used, or
Okay.
maybe older data being used.
Okay, so that is again something which
Weak.
will be a threat, because the quality of data that the ULB use depends on what quality of data is available. So of course it is a threat coming from outside.
But even after e-governance has been introduced in a ULB, the ULB will still have a representation from all. parts of the community, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. Um, okay. Since a ULB, uh, I mean, the cycle, it rotates every election. Uh, so the e-governance part will also have to be updated regularly. I
Okay,
am
so
not sure
in the
what part.
threats, we can say changing political parties, or we can say political instability. I think that is what you mean. That with the changing political parties, the goals or the objectives or what they really prioritize. So the priorities of the political party changes. So with that, the integration or the introduction, the speed with which it is being integrated can change. I think this is what you meant. Am I right?
Um, yeah, more or less.
Anything else?
It's the presence of the mechanism as well. I mean, to higher higher technical input. Uh, so for all this, definitely there would, if there is no strength within, then the ULB actually tenders out or gets the consultants on board. But if there is no proper mechanism or no such consultants, competitive consultants available, then there would be the quality of entire system will not be the same as perceived or as envisaged.
Okay, so I just mentioned it as staff movement because staff movement will be both the staff, some staff which will be leaving, who are not ready to or cannot have their capacity built up enough to be integrated into a system of e-governance, and even for the staff, new staff which will be needed, which will be hired in order to fulfill the gaps or of the roles that are required. So I just named it as staff node. Uh, Focus on the thing that it is e-governance, or it requires electricity and infrastructure related to that. In that terms, what do you think can be the weaknesses or the threats which might be faced?
Service dependent.
Yes, service dependent. So this is a threat, or service dependent maybe can be a weakness. Threat in terms of something which is coming externally, we can say uh, frequent power cuts, maybe if that is a situation in an urban area, that can be a threat. Weakness because inherently e-governance would be service dependent, so we can call it a weakness that it is service dependent. Uh, Another thing which can be a weakness in itself is lack of,
Uh,
yes.
if this is completely digital, then maybe lack of human understanding while making decisions can be a
Uh,
weakness.
even if e-governance is integrated, it is always understood that there still be a human touch to it. There still will be staff who will be operating. It won't become totally. So I think maybe what you're saying, we can put it in threats. Uh, but
The system can be hacked. I mean, any system can be hacked, but I
mhm,
don't know.
okay,
That can
so
be a threat.
uh, possibility of hacking or unethical. Okay, I'll leave it at that. So, possibility of hacking or unethical management of the system. that also can be a threat. So I hope this is clear, because even hacking is from an external threat. It is not inherent to the company. It comes from something which is not a part of the company but external. So I think it is very clear to you now what the difference between all the four components are, and how while taking any job, any new thing for any organization, we can do a SWOT analysis in order to understand properly what are the things or what are the positives which enables the company to move forward in that direction, what are the opportunities which the company or the organization can look forward to, and what are the weaknesses it needs to improve upon in order to better enjoy the change, and what are the threats it should be aware of and should be actively anticipating in order to uh, deliver a more smoother function, or in order to be able to achieve its goals in a better way. So I hope this is clear, and I hope you can answer the question also. We'll move on to the next question. So, next question for today is the factors responsible for non-performance of employees in any organization are, and we are given four options. The first is knowledge, skill, and attitude. The second is infrastructure, software, and equipment. Third is environmental, motivational, and behavioral. And last is incentive, promotion, and tenure. So again, I want you to pay attention that it is asking for factors. It is not asking for specifics like incentives and promotions. These are uh, specific things which may cause performance or non-performance, but it is asking the broader factors which cause performance and non-performance. So in order to understand better, you can go back to the different factors which actually help enhance or affect the performance of an organization. So you might remember there were three factors. So we are not here talking about non-performance, but before non-performance also we need to see the factors of performance, or what affects performance in an organization. So as we remember, there are external factors and internal factors. So external factors like the external environment, and then internal factors like the organizational motivation and organizational capacity, which can affect performance. So, external environment involves things like administrative and legal provisions which are there. There can be political factors like political instability or stability, which can affect performance or non-performance in an organization. There can be social cultural context which may or might affect working in the environment. There can be technological constraints. So even technology forms a part of the external environment which supports the organization, or if it's not good, it uh, interferes with the organization's function. There can be economic constraints, which also form a part of the external environments, and then the stakeholders. So, stakeholders are people or citizens or anyone else who is associated with the functioning of the environment, who is affected by the functioning of the organization, but they are not a part of the organization. However, they still form a part of the external environment which is being affected by the organization, and in turn, the organization is also affected by how the stakeholders take to their decisions. Either they support it or they don't support. So, these all things are something which is external to the organization but still affect performance or non performance of the organization. Then is the organizational motivation. So this can come from the history. So motivation can come from a lot of things like your historical context, what drives you to do things which you do in the organization, your mission. So your mission statement, what is it that your organization strives towards, what is your organization wants to achieve. That also can drive motivation in the organization. Then the culture. So your social and cultural context, always affects the working of your organization in various ways, as you might know. Even like you might have heard of examples that in Japan, even there is, because of their cultural context, the people working in any job, they are more driven to do their best in their jobs because it is a part of their culture. To It is imbibed in them by their culture that doing their work in the best possible way is something that provides fulfillment to a person. So because of this cultural connotation, you see a different kind of motivation in the people working towards something. This is just one example which I'm giving. It can be different for different people. So in some contexts, you might even have heard part of, like, in some cultural contexts, people prefer to do one kind of job compared to the other kind of job. So all these social cultural contexts affect, or at least dictate, the motivation of the staff or the people, or even the way an organization functions. Then there are incentives and rewards. So these are some things which you can consider as tools which you can use to modify or to direct the motivation in the organization, to manipulate it in order for your organization to work better. So, for example, if there is a lack of motivation to do some specific jobs, you can introduce some incentives or some rewards uh, for completion of that job, or for furthering of the objectives of that job, so that uh, because of the additional incentives, there is more motivation in the staff or in the workers to work for that job. So this is kind of a tool uh, which can be used to further organizational. Then there is organizational capacity, which also affects organizational performance. So organizational capacity basically is what is the inherent capacity of the organization itself. So it can be uh, the attitude of the people, the skill set they possess, or the behavioral qualities of the organization or the people working inside. So this can be things like, if there is there a strategic leadership present? Are there enough human resource? Is the quality of human resource good? So by quality, you may mean, do they have the right skill set? Do they have the right attitude to do the job? Is there a proper behavioral mechanism which is set there in order to get the job done in time? Things like that. Then there are things like financial management, organizational processes, program management. So these are all the things which are required in order to properly uh, use all of the skill set or all of the human resource which is there. Then there are things like infrastructures and resources. So these also you can uh, call as a capacity of the organization, because this is something which the organization needs to have in order to function. Then there is inter-institutional linkages also, because many of the times you know that in order for an organization to function properly or to deliver its objectives or deliver its functions, uh, you often need coordination with other organizations. So in order to do that, you need to have inter-institutional linkages, and the quality of these linkages can always affect the performance and non-performance of an organization. So if you see in this way, you can see that these correspond to three different things. So if you see the external environment, you can just call it as environmental factors. If you see the organizational capacity, the attitudes of the people, their skill set, how they function, how their behavior is managed. So all of these things you can count as behavioral, or even infrastructures and things which support the certain behavior of the staff. So in all of that we can count as behavioral aspects. And then there is motivational aspects pertaining to the organization. So these three factors, broadly, you can see that these are the factors which affect performance and non-performance in any organization. So we'll do a quick exercise here. These are some things which I have, or some examples which I have written related to non-performance in any organization. What I want you to do is I want you to pay attention again to these factors and the broad categories which we have divided. And from this, I want you to identify which category each of this non-performance pertains to. So we'll start with the first, which is lacking knowledge of standards and procedures. Which factor is it is? Is it a behavioral factor, environmental factor, or motivational factor? Anyone can answer?
It's behavioral.
Yes, correct. It is a behavioral factor because it is pertaining to the skill set or knowledge of the staff itself or anyone who is supposed to have the knowledge of standards and procedures, but they are lacking. What about shortage of office supplies? Shortage of office
There's a
supplies. Rajwala, do you want to answer?
Environmental?
Environmental? Yes, correct. Because uh, it pertains to the environment you are working in. So, as I mentioned, even the technology or the infrastructure which you have can be a part of, or the way it is supplied to you. There might be a supply chain problem or something. It can be a part of the environment in which you are working, and it can pertain to environment.
ma'am, in the diagram which you showed in the previous slide, uh, this will come under infrastructure and resources, but you wrote that alongside organizational capacity.
Okay. Okay, yes, infrastructure and resources can come, it will come under infrastructure and resources. However, when I wrote this lack of office supplies, the way I was thinking, yes, I understand that it can be infrastructure and resources, but way I was thinking that the supply of the infrastructure, the supply office supply has been stop or it has been discontinued because of some external factor. So I was thinking like that, but yes, I accept your answer also that it can be uh, capacity or behavioral aspect also.
I mean, I do agree that it is environmental, but I
Mhm.
don't understand how resources comes under behavioral.
So as I mentioned, even the infrastructure or the resources which you have, it affects your behavioral. So it affects the behavioral system or behavioral pattern which is there in your workplace or office environment or organizational environment. So something which is specifically set up, like if some of the offices have snack stations or water stations set up within the office infrastructure only, so that the staff don't have to go out to take more frequent breaks for having a snack or having water. So in those terms, if it is kept there specifically to manipulate the office behavior or the office capacity, then it comes under behavioral or capacity factor which we are considering.
Okay.
I hope that made sense. However, I'll again go and take a look at it again. I'll take a look at it in the uh, material, and if I have made a mistake, I'll clarify it in the next session. I hope you can allow me that. We'll,
Yes,
uh,
yes.
we'll move on to the next thing now. So, lack of skills to use computer and related equipment. Visualize saying behavior. Yes, this is also behavior because lack of skills means it pertains to the skills and attitudes of the staff, so it is behavioral. What about frequent natural calamities that also can render an organization non-performing? So what about that?
Environmental.
Yes. So it's quite literally environmental. What about no promotion incentives to well-performing employees?
Motivational.
Yes. So this is the first example of motivation. So even if someone is well-performing, but they are getting the same kind of incentives or reimbursements as someone who is not very well-performing, there will be a lack of motivation to perform. So this is an example of a motivational factor. What about lazy attitude of the employees?
Behavior.
Yes. So this is something which is related to the attitude of the employee. So in the first example also you can maybe see that the attitude of the employees can change if no promotion is given, but then we are talking about promotion. So not the attitude of the employee, but the lack of the promotion. So this is something which will change their motivation. So that is why we have kept it in motivational aspect, and the inherent lazy attitude of the employees, we have kept that in behavior. What about no job tenure security after initial probation period?
Motivational,
Yes, this again is motivational. Frequent power cuts.
environmental,
Lack of skills to operate softwares.
Behavioral.
Yes. Political instability.
Environment.
environment,
Yes, yes, environment. So I'm getting from this exercise that it is very clear to everyone what these three factors are. You were able to answer all of these questions very well for that. So I think this question is clear. We'll move on to the next question, which is what is the prime difference between process and system? And we are given four options. First says that system is a continuous action, while process is a set of tools to perform the actions. Then one which says process is a continuous action and system is a set of tools to perform the action. Then system is a sequence of events and process is a sequence of modes. And last it says processes are machineries of a system. Okay, so we'll try to understand basically first what a process and a system is. So a process is something which refers to a series of interrelated coordinated activities that when they are undertaken, they achieve a specific goal which we want to achieve. So for example, uh, we want to set up a business. So in order to set up that business, what are the different processes we need to do? So we need to get a permit, we need to find a place or place to rent where you can set up your business. You need to find what you're going to do for your business. So you then you need want to set up a supply chain mechanism or supply chain system, that is another system, another part, but that is one thing which you need to do. Then maybe you do five other things. So all these things, the sequential activities which are coordinated with one another, which you need to do, uh, which will then help you achieve your specific goals. That is called a process. So it involves a sequence of different steps and actions which are designed to produce a desired outcome. The outcome in this case, which or this example which I gave, will be to set up a business. On the other hand, a system is something which is interconnected set of components, and all these components work together to achieve a particular purpose. So it involves integration of various elements that interact and depend on each other to function effectively. So an example I might give you these days, there are several online platforms which provide you a system to set up your business online, with online business. So can't remember the name of the online platforms on top of my head, but there are companies or there are online platforms which will give you a domain name, which will help you allow marketer products online, which will give you uh, a space or a mechanism, a system to set up your warehouse. It can deliver your messages directly, or the items, if something's if some service or some product you order, it can uh, create a chain of commands directly to your warehouse, and then from your warehouse to your shipping person. So there are this, what you would call, is a system. So it is different components. So a component of communication to the warehouse, then a warehouse, then a shipping system, and then a component which is there to set up your business online. So maybe a website or some uh, web page which can take the orders, things like that. So this is all different interconnected components which work together to achieve a particular purpose. So these are not steps which you need to do, but it's already a system which is in place which can help you do what you want. So this is the difference between a system and a process. So process is a set of steps which you need to do, and the system is something which you can use to do all of the set of the steps, or maybe one of the steps. So this is what is the difference between a process and system. So we'll take an example here. Uh, the example we are taking is you want to get a business permit approval. So what is the process which will be required here? So in terms of process, what are the steps which you might to undertake in order to get a business permit approval? Can anyone answer?
Sort of registration, statutory registration.
Yes. So that is just one step. Any other step which might be involved in the process?
Again, based on the nature of the business also, whether it's product related, consultancy related, based on that particular nature, you'll have to sort of find your target areas of work. So
So
maybe look at your supplier
uh,
failures, etc.
here we are just focusing on the business permit approval. We are not focusing on getting approval for supply or collection of some resource, but just to get the approval for the business from maybe your urban local body or whoever gives you the permit. So you can count steps like you have to make an application, you have to submit an application, things like that. So you need to mention the process, the different steps which will be involved in getting the permit.
Gathering all the documents needed for verification.
So first gathering the documents, okay, then gathering the documents, you will submit the application, then it will go for document verification. Then if you've already got a venue or a place for your business, maybe you will have a round of inspections. Then if your business pertains to something which can have an effect on a direct effect on the public, there may be some public consultation involved. Then there may be review and approval, and then final decision and communication of your permit approval, and then lastly permit issuance. So these are all the steps will be there in uh, the business permit approval process. So all these steps together combined form the process. Now, what is the system in place that you need to have in order to get this permit approved? Rajula, do you want to answer?
Clarity about rules, regulations, and guidelines.
So that is not a system. A system who will how even if you apply and submit the documents and everything, there should be a system in place who can take your application, process it, verify, do the inspection, do the public consultation, review your document, do everything. What is the system or the components of the system or various systems that you need in place in order for this business permit to get approved, or you can get the permit?
So it would require dedicated department or a team
Yes,
and a
like
Like
a
an
concerned person.
association of businessmen.
yes, yes, very good. So you first of all you need a regulatory framework. So regulatory framework is all the laws and regulations which first of all need to be there. So business permit approval, an organization doesn't decide it on their own whims. There is a set regulatory framework, all the laws and rules and regulations which are there, according to which even the organization makes decision to give a permit out or not. So that is the first component of the system which you need. So that is the regulatory framework. Then second, again, someone said issuing departments which is needed. So someone needs to be there. So a system, a component of the system or departments or an organizational structure needs to be there in order to then perform uh, the review and approval process, which is the issuing department. Then you need the technology and infrastructure to do all of this. So issuing departments can't just be an organizational structure, just the staff. They need some kind of technology and infrastructure also. Then they need a data management system. So it is not only one business permit approval that they are doing. There will be multiples of different kinds of business permit approval that they might be managing. So in order to your permit to be approved, then they need to have a data management system also, which will be used to process and review your application. Then there need to be communication channels. So in order to for them to communicate it to you that your application has been selected or rejected or whatever, they need communication channel. And after all of this, they also needs enforcement mechanisms. So enforcement mechanisms can be any body or organization, maybe like a uh, like regulatory authorities or police or anyone who is in place, who can ensure that whatever is being declared by the approval authority is being followed or not. So if approval has been granted to you, you can go ahead with this. But if approval has not been granted to you, there can be a regulatory or there can be some authority which ensures, or some enforcing authority which ensures that you are behaving or carrying out your business according to the approval that you have got. So KKD is saying, so the system has the tools and processes is the action. Not only tools, but even the whole structure or the whole organization and everything which is in place in order to support what is there in the process. Yes, you can say process is the action or something which you need to do in order to reach to it. So I think this is now clear. We'll move on to the next question. Next question is, in RTI Act 2005, the term RTI is what? So I think you might already know this, so I won't tell you the answer. But I've given you a link to the RTI Act. So if you click on to here, it will take you to the RTI Act document. And if you want, you can read further about the Act here. But I'll just quickly tell you what RTI is. So RTI Act is an important piece of legislation, and it is mainly aiming to promote transparency and accountability, and also participatory governance in the functioning of. It is enacted by the government of India, and it was introduced to empower the citizens by granting them the right to access information which is held by public authority. So this is what the basic purpose of RTI Act is. So it helps the citizens in obtaining information about functioning of different organizations. So it can be different government departments, different agencies, or different institutions. So with the help of this act and the mechanism or the system that has been set up based on this act, the citizens can access information or regarding the functioning of different departments, and by the way of this right of accessing information, their uh, uh, the intention of the government is to introduce a sort of transparency between the citizen and the government departments or the organization. So this is what the RTI Act is. This question asks you about the full form. I think that you can very well go and check in the RTI document itself, which I have linked here. The next question for today is, public information officers or PIOs are officers designated by public authorities to provide information on request from the citizens under RTI Act 2005. Is it a true or a false statement? So this again, this is related to the RTI Act, and it is talking about the different. It is talking about one particular function, which is to provide information. Is this function designated to the PIOs or not? So I'll tell you about the different functions that PIOs have. So PIOs or public information officers are designated officers within the public authority who are responsible for receiving and responding to all requests for information made under the RTI Act. So they have different roles. These include receiving of the RTI applications, processing the RTI applications, providing information asked for in the application, even denying information in the application. This can happen if the request that has been made in the application falls under any of the categories which have been exempted from the act or from the particular regulations which ask the organizations to provide information. Also, their role is to communicate with the applicants, maintain the records of all the applications of requests and the information that has been provided. And then last, their role is to assist with all of the appeals if the application is not satisfied with the response that has been provided. So these are all the different activities or roles which are assigned to a PIO and which the PIO does. So I think from all of this, it is very clear. It should be clear to you if the question asking about their role in providing information, if it's a true statement or a false statement. So I think there are no doubts in this. We'll move on to the next question, which is choose the option which does not come under domain of training. And you are given four options: lecture, group discussion, self-learning, and field visit. And you have been asked that which of these options does not come under the domain of training. So let's see again what training means in order to understand that which of these can be a part of training and which are not. So training basically refers to the process of acquiring knowledge or skills and competencies through a structured and systematic instruction. So whenever we say training, it can't be unstructured or unorganized or just a casual conversation kind of a thing. It can't be observational learning. It has to be through structured and systematic instruction. Also instruction, it should come from someone. It can be through in-person method or through online method or through some sort of written instructions or something, but some sort of instruction has to be there. Also, it involves a planned and organized approach to teaching individuals or group a specific information or techniques in order to enhance their understanding, abilities, and performance in a particular area. So, again, focus on that. It should be planned and organized, and it should be a teaching. It should be in the way that it is being taught to an individual or a group or any organization. So again, focus on the that if it is training, it should be through structured and systematic method, and it should be in form of an instruction. So there should be someone, either a mentor or a lecturer or someone who is instructing uh, the person who is under training. So instruction can be in person, instruction can be through some activity, instruction can be online or even through written text, but there needs to be some sort of instruction of what is to be done, how is to be done. And then there should be a planned and organized approach on how to train or how to achieve the end goal. And there should be a teaching element to it. So these are all the things which define training. So let's take a few things, and can you identify among these which are the ones which are not uh, a part of training or which cannot really be called training? Uh, we have workshops, observational learning, structured learning, independent learning, independent learning, personal reflection, informal discussion, internship, simulation training, reading books, instructed courses, exploratory research, and mentoring. These are all different options or different types of methods which you can use to learn, or these are all learning methods, but only some of them are training, others are not training. So can you identify which are the ones which are not which do not come under the domain of training? So self-learning,
Independent learning, personal reflection,
yes. Is observational learning a part
observational,
of training?
no, observational. Um,
Prajwala is saying independent learning. Yes, that is also correct. Independent learning is not a part of. What about simulation training?
it is training.
Yes. So simulation training is a method by which you simulate the real life experience for someone who is training. So you what they will face in real life, you simulate that in a learning environment for them in order for them to train. But yes, again, it is a structured method for training someone by replicating the real life scenario for them in a training or work or learning. What about informal discussion? Informal discussion with an instructor.
Since, since it is informal with an instructor,
If I add with an instructor to that, informal discussion with an instructor, will it still be training?
As per the definition, it won't be.
Yes. Yes, as per the definition, it won't be, because again, the definition mentions that it should be through structured and systematic instruction. So, if the instruction is provided by the instructor in an informal manner, not pertaining to the structure or system, it can be something which is additional, but no, it won't pertain to the domain of training itself. It won't completely help you in training if it's only an informal discussion. What about reading books?
If it is a part of of the systematic instruction,
If it's a
it
part of
is
the systematic instruction, if it
then
has
it is
been
training.
given by the instructor, then yes, otherwise it's not. So if we can say that instructed courses, so you can have some course material or something which is given to you by the instructor, that will be a part of training, but reading books on your own is not a part of training. What about exploratory research? Anyone? Exploratory research?
Uh, if it's well structured in terms of objectives or it's done for having any case studies, then it is part of training. So if it's part of a workshop wherein the mode of teaching is through the visits, then it is training.
Okay, I get that, but in this case, we want to achieve a particular outcome or a particular end goal in the end. However, in the case of exploratory research, you don't know what your end goal or outcome will be. So in that way, it is exploratory in nature. So there still can be someone who is instructing you in the research, or they are telling you what to do or what to look for, but you are exploring something which is new, which is unknown, so you don't really know what the end goal is. However, in the terms of training, we know what we want in the end goal, what do we want as an output of the training exercise. So exploratory research in that terms is not a part of training. It's something which is different from training. What about mentoring?
It
No,
is
because
not.
it is not, because it is not structured.
Okay, so
It could or be impromptu.
mentoring can be both. It can be structured and unstructured also. In a lot of organizational systems, there is even set up a structure for mentoring. So if you take up an intern to mentor them, do you have a structured system in which organization they go into, what skills they learn, what output they will generate at the end of their training period. All of this is also set up. So yes, I understand that in some cases it can be more informal and can count as training, but in many cases mentoring can come under domain of training and can uh, be a part of a training. So I hope this was clear. uh, Next question, which is, what are the steps for systematic approach for training, which is SAT. You're given different options, so all of them have the same uh, options, which is identifying the needs, designing, implementing, and assessing, but the order is different. And I think in some example, in some options, even environmental change, and there are some other options also. So, like in the second option, you have motivation, then identification of, then assessment, then. So this comes from the material about systematic approach training which you have. So you might have learned that it is sort of a cyclic process. It doesn't, it is iterative in nature. So iterative means that once it comes to an end, it starts again. So it doesn't really have an end. But in those terms, you can start first. If it has to start from one particular point. It will start by identifying the training needs. So it will start with you identifying what the current skills are there in an organization, and what gaps there are in which are existing uh, in the performance, and then using the skills that are needed and the gaps which are there, you will determine what training requirements are needed. So what gap you need to fulfill, for that what skills you need and who you need to train, all those things you identify in the identifying needs training. From that, after identifying what is needed, you move on to planning and designing the training program. So you develop clear training objectives, you develop the content, you develop the methods and resources that you will need to train the person in order to fill the skill requirements and gaps which are there. So after designing your plan, you go on to implementing the training plan. So you deliver the training according to your plan. So you implement it, you deliver it. You can do it through lectures, you can do through workshops, you can have simulation trainings, you can have hands-on exercises, a lot of it. So after you have designed the structure, you implement it and you train. After training, after implementing your training program, you assess the results. So you evaluate the knowledge of the learner, you see their performance after receiving the training, how much knowledge they have retained, how much skill improvement they have made, are they able to apply their skill on the real life project or not, all of these assessments you know. So after sometimes after making the assessment, then you remodify or re-evaluate the further needs which are there. So these needs can then be about the performance gaps, or then it can even be about augmenting the training techniques itself or something like that. So it is a cyclical process, but even in that, the first step, you can say that identifying training the first step. So I think this also is clear. So this question pertains to the systematic approach to training. And, this process made it clear what the correct answer to this question can be. We'll move on to the last question for today, which is for enumerating the requirement of training and capacity building organizations. TNA is conducted. So what does the term TNA refers to? I won't tell you what the term TNA refers to, but I'll tell you what are the components of TNA. So TNA has three components. It is divided into organizational analysis, job analysis, and task analysis. So TNA is conducted to evaluate what capacity building an organization needs. So it happens on three scales. First, at the organizational scale, which is the organizational analysis, it evaluates the overall goals of any organization, overall strategies and structural changes which the organization itself needs. So this will evaluate what an overall organizational reform is required in order for capacity building for the entire organization. The second thing, or the second scale of assessment, is the job analysis. In this, you evaluate or examine the different jobs or roles or responsibilities which are needed, and you assess the competency requirements of each of these roles and responsibilities, and you try to align the training requirements with these specific roles. So you assess what the training requirements are for the capacity building, and you try to align the specific jobs, roles and responsibilities according to this analysis. Then at the lowest level is the task analysis. So this you break down into very smaller tasks or very small pinpointed skills or gaps which are there. So at the lowest level, what needs to be done, what specific tasks needs to be done, and in those tasks, what are the skills which are needed, which are not possessed by the current employees or current staff that you analyze. So in this, you pinpoint the skill gaps and training needed for the existing employees, and you then, according to that, you build a capacity building or training. So these are the three scales of or three different parts of TNA. I hope this points you towards the right direction, what TNA is. And this is the last question for. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation. I hope it helped you in understanding the course. It helped you to practice a little bit more the different questions and different material related to that. If you still have any more questions, any more doubts related to this week's lecture or previous week's lecture, please go ahead and ask. Any doubts which you have not asked so far, I'm very welcome to ask. Uh, Anyone has any doubts? Even if you don't have any doubts right now, it is okay. You can write down your doubts whenever they come, and you can ask them in the next session even. You can even access the forum where you can ask your doubts directly to the course instructor or the assigned teaching assistant. So you can even at this point, if you don't want to ask any doubts or have any doubts, at a later point also, you can go and ask your doubts in the discussion forum and can get doubts answered there. So I think there are no further doubts for today. So I'll just thank you very much for attending today's session, and we'll meet again. We'll meet again in next session, which will again be next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8. So thank you very much for coming. I'll see you in next session. Thank you.
Thank you.